What's going on, guys? Asian Guy here, bringing you my very first impression of Yoimiya, the latest 5-star character in Genshin Impact. My Yoimiya is Constellation 0. She has access to some 5-star bows as well as some 4-star bows as well, namely the Rust. And of course, she has Constellation 0, talent level 666 as well. And I kind of wanted to talk about the division that's going on right now. A lot of people think she's completely garbage. Some people think she's fantastic. I personally think, to give you the conclusion straight away, that she is a solid character. I don't think she's meta-defining if you want to compare her to the likes of Hu Tao or Ganyu or even Xiao. For damage per second, not damage per screenshot, she's definitely going to fall short. I do, however, think that people should not be looking at her as a main DPS character, but rather a rotational character. Someone like Hu Tao, someone like Child, potentially an enabler as well. Again, I want to talk about that later down the line because I do think there are hidden potentials for her that she may or may not have, subject to change, reliant on what's coming in the future. Now, going back to that, I also think there's a lot of different artifacts that she can use, and I do think that she's very, very accessible to F2P players. I do think a lot of people who are bashing on her are kind of forgetting how some of these other major characters are kind of locked behind a paywall of getting lucky or getting constellations or getting good weapons. And I don't think Yoimiya is necessarily in that category, and I do think, again, a lot of people bashing on her kind of forget where everyone started from, or where a lot of the player bases, if not the vast majority, at least 90% of the player base, are probably very casual gamers, and it's mainly hardcore gamers that are berating her and belittling her, and forgetting that not everyone has optimal artifacts or optimal rotations or likes to play meta teams. I do think this is where Yoimiya can kind of shine because of her accessibility to so many different players. And for some people, of course, that's going to be copium. For me, if someone tells me that, it's going to be copium because I'm an endgame hardcore player. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, guys, a few side-by-sides here. We have got a C0 Yoimiya at level 80 versus a C1 Hu Tao at level 90. Thundering Pulse versus the Staff of Homer. Refinement rank 1. Talent levels are 666. C6 Bennett versus C6 Xingqiu as the supports. The time difference there is a very, very minimal amount there of 0.35 seconds. Now we have a side-by-side of the Belied set versus the Shimenao's Reminiscence. Again, very, very, very minimal difference. You can see maybe around 2,000 to 3,000 difference in the crit hits there, but ultimately you're weighing up shield bonus versus the attack percent bonus. And of course, most importantly, what I want to reiterate with these side-by-sides here, guys, is that the difference is so small, and it really does depend on, of course, whether you get lucky with crits and whether or not you can even achieve the high enough crit rate in the 70% in the first place. And to do that, you need to prioritize substats. And what I want to emphasize the most is that rather than completing your 4-piece set effects with your artifacts, if you have artifacts, 2-piece and 2-piece, and you can complete a 2-piece set, and they have way better substats than your 4-piece set, you should probably prioritize those substats instead. There are way more nuance or way more specifics in that, but as a general guidance, you want to be looking at crit rate, you want to be looking at crit damage, a certain degree of energy recharge, elemental mastery, depending on your character, HP percent, attack percent, defense percent, and all of these stats come from your substats. Don't focus, of course, the main stats and the 4-piece set is important, but your substats are super important as well. For those of you who like to run shield characters, I highly recommend going with the Retracing Belied set. Remember, the 2-piece set of Retracing Belied does not work on the shield character. For example, if you put it on Zhongli and then you switch to another character, that shield bonus disappears. It only is active on the character with the set at the time. So in this case, you want it to be on Yoimiya, the 2-piece set and the 4-piece set, so you get the normal attack boost as well when you have the shield on. If you have Zhongli, then I have to say, and you're running Zhongli with Yoimiya, absolutely, Retracing Belied is freaking gorgeous. And the reason why, every time you're dodging, you're losing damage. If you're breaking your combo string as well with Yoimiya, you're losing damage, because the more Yoimiya attacks, the further she gets into a chain, the more damage each of her arrows starts doing. Especially if you're using Vaporize, you want to go for first, third, and fifth shots. They're the ones that are going to vaporize, and you don't want to break your combo string and mess that up. If you're not running a shield character with Yoimiya, then go for the Shimenao's Reminiscence, and if you don't have that, then you can go with 2-piece Crimson Witch and 2-piece Gladiators, or 2-piece Shimenao's. Doesn't really matter because both of them them give plus 18% attack bonus. Some people would even recommend going with 2-piece gladiators, 2-piece Shimenawas. I think that is viable if you have, for example, the Thundering Pulse. And then on top of that, you can also go for the full-on Crimson Witch if you're going for Overloaded, even if you're going for Vaporize. Ultimately, it really does, again, come down to your substats, guys. Whichever artifact sets you have the better substats on, even Lava Walker. If you have the best substats on Lava Walker, then go with Lava Walker because the substats are super important. Now, if you are high on Copium or you are desperate, I actually think that this build will be very accessible to a lot of people. You go for Peace Noblesse, and that might sound ridiculous to you guys, but for those people who don't have enough time or they don't have enough resources to farm good artifacts, you can just throw a random 4-piece set of Noblesse on her. This is excluding her substats. Of course, if the substats are good, that's even better. It will allow her to do more damage, but you can get yourself 2 sets of 20% attack bonuses because Yoimiya's talent at level 60, her Ascended talent, will allow you to get anywhere from 10% to 20% attack bonus for all your allies, excluding Yoimiya, for 15 seconds. That's a very long time. The Noblesse effect for the 20% attack bonus after using your ultimate also lasts for around 12 seconds, and if you combo those together, you are going to get a reasonable amount of attack bonus for your rotation. And of course, with 12 seconds, even 15 seconds, you'll be able to rotate through a lot of characters. And this is where I give you the hint, nudge, nudge. I do believe in the future, we are going to have many characters that will encourage you to rotate through your entire team. Subject to change. If we're going to take a look at weapons, look no further than the Thundering Pulse. It's a no-brainer. It's a best in slot. If you have refinements on it, you are a lucky son of a gun because this bow is a complete and utter beast. If you're looking at 5-star weapons though, Amos bow, it's an option. It's viable, but it's definitely not great. It's the worst of the 5-star bows to be running, specifically on Yoimiya. Of course, it's great on Ganyu, but for Yoimiya specifically, no bueno. We've got the Skyward Harp as well. Amazing bow to round out your stats for attack, for crit rate, crit damage. It's just a fantastic bow overall and aesthetically very pleasing in my opinion. But this refinement rank 1 and even the refinement rank 2 Skyward Harp was inferior, at least for normal attack damage, for the R5 Rust. So if you do have Rust, 1, it looks amazing. 2, if you have refinements on it, refinement rank 3, 4, 5, I actually think the Rust bow is a superb option for a 4-star bow. You can also go, again, likewise to the Skyward Harp, if you want to round out your stats, the Viridescent Hunt is not a bad shout. The passive here can be copiumly useful for rounding up your enemies together, making it easier to target them, to attack them, and then use her ultimate for some AoE. But again, it's a little bit copium. And of course, Yoimiya does ascend with crit rate, so it should be a bit easier to build crit rate on Yoimiya. So please keep that in mind. She has like 19% crit rate minimum, which is going to be very nice as well. Windbloom Ode for the F2P players. Again, it's copium. Copium is not a good thing, but it's an option to have. Yoimiya's Imbue with her elemental skill lasts for 10 seconds. This buff here only lasts for 6 seconds. So obviously it's not too efficient. It's not great. And the downside is this bow is so ugly. Please don't run this bow on Yoimiya. The other option, if you are in Inazuma, Inazuma is adventure rank lock. For those of you who are still under adventure rank 30 or not in Inazuma yet, they have a new Inazuma bow called the Hamayumi bow, which is superb. It's actually a bit counterproductive to run with the Shimenawa's Reminiscence because you want, with that bow, to be at 100% energy. So Retracing Belied is your best friend if you're using a shield character, or 2-piece Gladiators / 2-piece Shimenawas plus 2-piece Crimson Witch of Flames as well. The details of the Hamayumi bow should be on screen for you right now. The nice thing with Yoimiya, guys, is she has so many viable bow options, which is superb for her, and I love that about her. She's very accessible with what you can run with her in terms of a weapon, in terms of her artifacts, and even in terms of partners in crime, in terms of her teams. Super flexible. And this is what I meant earlier with, I think people are forgetting that loads of different players have different preferences. They have different tools at their disposal. Some people might have a Bennett. Some people might have a Singtrio, but they might not actually want to play with them. I can name my wife as someone who has a Bennett who refuses to invest, and the meta slave in me, that kills me. I'm always telling her, if you just unleash your Bennett, you have so much of an easier time in Spiral Abyss. But she just doesn't want to. And there's plenty of players like that. And this is where Yoimiya really shines. She's super flexible and she can work with so many different characters, so many different weapons, so many different artifacts. And I do think that makes her way more accessible. Now, the question everyone has been waiting for. Hu Tao versus Yoimiya? Wrong. That is not the question you should be asking yourself. I want to encourage more people to start asking themselves, should I pull for this character because I like the character and I enjoy their playstyle? That is the #1 priority, and for some people that might be an excuse because they're meta slaves. But realistically speaking, guys, I want more and more people to encourage the behavior of having fun while playing a game, because most characters are very much viable and more than good enough to deal with Spiral Abyss as long as you invest and build into them. Now, on the flip side though, guys, her playstyle is very basic. It's Unga Bunga. You throw in a reaction here and there, but she is very Unga Bunga. You press E or your elemental skill and you just click, 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 pew, pew, pew. Now for the question that I know people have been waiting for. Hu Tao versus Yoimiya. And to that, I have to say, why not both? It's like when Kazuha and Venti came out, why not both? You can put them on different teams, you can put them on the same team, and you have a good time. With Yoimiya and Hu Tao though, I would have to say, obviously I'm not going to be out of touch and say that everyone can pull every single character. Look at the team I'm using right now, it's whale characters. But some people might have this. If you have this, the team is actually very, very enjoyable and very clean to play, but you do need to have a Constellation 2 minimum on Xingqiu. And the reason why is that Constellation 2 on Xingqiu, his ultimate lasts for 18 seconds. If you have an ultimate that's lasting 18 seconds to help you vaporize with Hu Tao, as you can see on the screen there, she ran out of pyro. What are you going to do when she runs out of pyro? What are you going to do when the character or the enemy is too far away? You switch to Yoimiya and you start vaporizing with Yoimiya instead. And then when you're done with Yoimiya, you can ultimate with Yoimiya, give your Zhongli, give your Xingqiu, give your Hu Tao more bonus damage by increasing their attack percent. And you can even put Noblesse on the Yoimiya as well. And I really do think people are sleeping on all these different possibilities, all these different capabilities that are available to different kinds of players, and then just going off what they own themselves and closing their mind and being like, yes, every single person is represented by the box, by the characters, by the weapons, by the artifacts I have, and completely forgetting that everyone has different preferences and you can run these characters together. It doesn't have to be a competition. If you want a competition, there is no competition, because then you just pull for Venti, you pull for Zhongli, you pull for Xingqiu, you pull for Xiangling, you pull for Bennett, you pull for Ganyu. Those are the meta characters. You pull for Kazuha as well. All of these characters are really what define the meta. DPS characters will eventually be power crept. We're in a game where power creep is inevitable. Every character is going to get better and better and better. At least for DPS, the numbers are going to get higher and higher and higher, and trying to get you to spend that dollar. Power creep is inevitable. Your DPS characters in a year's time are probably going to be irrelevant. The only characters that will most likely remain relevant are the characters which have the potential to be supports, which I believe Yoimiya actually does have. Not in the extent of like Zhongli or Venti or Kazuha or Xingqiu or Bennett, but she still has it. It has that potential there. So please do keep that in mind as well. That is not a justification on why you should pull her though. And it's not a validation of saying that she is a great character right now. Because realistically speaking, in the current meta, if you're looking at her as a DPS, she's nowhere near on the level of like Xiao, Hu Tao, Ganyu, Eula, Ayaka, etc, etc. I wouldn't say nowhere near the level, but she's not on that level. Single target DPS, still fantastic. AoE DPS, non-existent, but she's way more flexible with weapons, way more flexible with artifacts, really flexible with who you can run with her. You can run Beidou, Fischl, Xingqiu, Bennett, Xiangling, Sucrose, Kazuha, Zhongli. Just an abundance of characters work really, really well with Yoimiya. And ultimately, guys, again, I'm going to reiterate this one last time. I do think she is a rotational character, a rotational support DPS that has the potential to shine in the future, depending on the content, depending on how the meta changes. Remember when people criticized Eula, then Eula suddenly became very meta for Spiral Abyss, suddenly became very meta for some difficult content and difficult events that came around with like the Magu Kenki and the Primo Geovishat with like 2 million HP. The meta is always changing. Remember when Venti fell out of the meta? Venti, people considered as the best character, and then suddenly we got characters which were huge that couldn't be crowd controlled, and then everyone was like, oh, Venti's actually not that useful in Spiral Abyss anymore. And then the swirl changes came, and then suddenly Venti's super meta again. And then back again, we have more characters that are harder to group up, that don't group up, that move around, that can't be crowd controlled. Venti's starting to fall out a little bit of the meta once again. The meta is always changing. People are always creative with what kind of teams you can make. And I believe that Yoimiya has a place to be considered as a solid, good character. And that's my opinion, guys. I hope that was insightful. I'm a little bit tired now. It's 6:38 a.m. right now. I'm exhausted. The Yoimiya release, the Sai release has got me, it's got me overworking right now. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video regardless. I will be talking about Sayu later as well. She is a fantastic character, guys. In terms of having fun, she is really, really up there. Fantastic in terms of the meta. I mean, she's a healer, guys. And healers are not super meta unless you're like really bad and you take a lot of damage. Which again, I would say a lot of the player base is. But I'm not here to flame you guys. That's for a future video. Thank you so much for watching. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.